Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to do was we're just going to start here with our rough animator, and we're just going to give ourselves a background for this. And again, let's just pick a neutral brownish woodish color for the background. For this, I want the background to be up here. And remember, I mentioned this yesterday in our drawing class that whenever you're doing anything, you always kind of want to think about the composition. So the reason why I'm striking a couple of different lines here is because I just want to get the idea that there's wood up there. And so that if I give myself the little limits to this, it ends up looking a little bit more like timber. I'm going to do this a couple of different ways. The first thing that I'm going to do is just, draw this in, and I can put like some wood texture up here if I want, but I'm not going to overdo it. So that's the background. On level 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to my arc layer. And come on, arc layer. And I'm going to add another layer. And I'm going to move the arc layer on top. I'm going to move it on top. All right, so the arc layer, what I want to do is so I'm going to pick some obnoxious color that I wouldn't normally use. So what I want here in the arc layer is I'm going to describe the main pendulum here. And I'm going to end the pendulum about right here. And I'm going to put the ball on it. Remember that we're on our arc layer. And so, ideally what I would like to do is take this and because this isn't going to change. What's going to change is its position. So the idea would be is that when I get into the animation, I'm going to create a key out of this drawing. And so I am going to copy and paste it. And I want to make sure that the pivot point is in the right place. What I need to know then is the distance of this line. So I'm going to see if I can copy. I'm going to lasso just the line. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to move it to make sure. Okay, good. So what this will allow me to do is rotate it horizontally, or let's just pick the main key position. Our pendulum is going to be just about right there. So I'm going to leave it like right there. That's good. And I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it again. I'm going to move it. And we're just going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this. To make sure that it's this. Oh, you know what? I don't want to do that. It won't let me grab it. Rats. And let's see if I can Command Z out of this. All right, good. So I'm going to paste it again. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to rotate it. And what I'm looking for is a couple of things. I'm looking to mimic this same arc over here. A bowling ball, if you've ever seen an experiment in a high school class where the teacher takes a literal bowling ball and it's even huge. It's like this 40-pound metal ball, and it has a kid sitting over here in a chair, and they puts the bowling ball right at the kid's nose. Everyone following me? And she lets it go, and it goes out here slowly, and then it comes back. And by the rules of physics, that bowling ball on a pendulum should never, ever come to its exact same position. It will always lose a little bit of momentum because there's air resistance, just a little bit. And so As long as the kid stays in the same place, he should be fine. But if he moves his head even just a little forward, his nose is toast, right? Here, we're not going to worry about the decay too much. It is not a traditional animator's thing where you animate a pendulum that comes to a stop. It would just take too long. It would just take way too long. So what I want to do is I want to go to my pen. I want to take another obnoxious color here. What I want to do is I want this arc. And what matters is the position of the ball itself, the end, especially where it's touching the end right there. And so that looks to me like it's a pretty good little arc, okay? There's a couple of things here. I mean, this looks okay. I'm going to do another demo for you in a little bit that shows you how to automate this whole thing here. But for right now, we're going to talk about key positions. So without doing anything else, what we're going to do is we're going to go, well, we're drawing number one. It's going to chart into this position right here. And we don't know what this number is yet. And then it's going to ease out of this position. And then this is our key position right here. And then it's going to ease in from this key position as it goes over to the right. And so we don't know what our timing's like, and we don't know what this number is yet either, but they have to be the same. The numbering has to be the same. This is on 2s. So we're going to do the same graphic trick. We're going to just say this position, add a little more. This position, add a little bit more. Copy the position, add a little bit more. Copy it, add just a little more. Make sure you're always adding just a little more. Now this is different than the bouncing ball because you want to hit this key position right here correctly, graphically. So if I put the next key position here, right here, then this one is believable because it's more. If I back it up a little bit more, if I put it right there, then it's even a little bit more believable. So I'm going to just double check, right? It is gaining momentum. Each position has a little bit more distance. So let's number these. This is going to be drawing 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19. That makes this one 21. So now we can put 21 over here. And I'm going to look to see if I do a graphic half of this, you know, it's intersecting between 13 and 15, and that doesn't work for me in the chart. That just doesn't work. If I do thirds, if I say this is about a third and this is about a third, ooh, look, there's a 17. Ooh, look, and it's like 11. So my graphic right here is that I've just taken this little apple pie and I've divided it up into thirds. And so now I can come over here in my chart and say, I'm on thirds. This is 11, and it's a breakdown position. And this is 17. This is a breakdown position. Now, the thing that I want to do here is I don't want to put 13 and 15 on equal because it should be accelerating. So one thing that you can do is just leave it to your breakdown artist, your breakdown animator, to understand that it is accelerating and not put the key positions in here. But if you've discovered that 11 and 13 make good thirds for key positions, go with it. Just make your chart, and you can present the chart just as it is in your arc, and you'll be better off. Copy these positions over on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this key position here, and we can count. So we'll just copy the position here. So this is 23. And what we have to do is you have to have the same number of drawings over here. So let's count our drawings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10, we got to get 10 drawings to go to this key position here. So this is drawing 1. Now so this is easing into the motion, right? Now it's easing out of the motion over here, or the way you look at it, it's easing out of the key position and easing into the key position over here. It's just two different ways of looking at the same thing. Okay, so this is drawing 25. This is drawing 27. 29. 31. 33. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. So we need 3 drawings in here. See what I did right there? Just to make sure I don't miscount. Because if you miscount, the apparent smooth motion will be affected. Even if it's 1 frame difference, it will be affected. So I want to, let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's an 11 drawing in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're right there. So I need 1 drawing 35 right here. And then I need a drawing 37 right here. And then a 39 right there. And even though this little distance right here is not exactly the same as this one, it'll still be believable with our eyes. All right, so that's on our arc layer. Our ball is just about 3/4 of an inch. The pendulum is swinging at about a 35, maybe a 45-degree angle. So yeah, it is, because this is a right angle up here. So it is a 45-degree angle. So that's pretty good. Or again, we are 2 ways of looking at it. You're either easing into the motion or easing out of the keyframe position. You're either easing into this keyframe position or you're easing out of the motion. Either way, you're easing. You are easing. There's an arc and the timing. Okay, so that's on our layer here. So let's take our background layer. Let's take our arc layer, and we need to count. So this is 33, 35, 39. So this ends up being drawing number 41. And it's on 2, so it will last 42 frames total. So this ends up being 42 down here. And you could guess that this drawing right here, 25, is on a 3rd. So the chart going to the right side is 25. And then there's 2 drawings between 25 and 31, so 31. And these are breakdown positions. So breakdown positions get an underline underneath them. That is the universal animation language, that key positions are circled, breakdown positions are underlined. And you can have as many breakdown positions as you want between 2 keys. Here it just makes sense to describe the arc on 3rds. So we're good here. Let's take this arc layer out all the way to 42 frames. All right, we don't have to shrink it or anything. Let's go back here to our layer number 1. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check my arc, because it's always a good thing. So everything is clean, right? I have the propensity for jumping around too much, because it's hard to concentrate while you're drawing and talking at the same time. So that's always a good thing to check and make sure that you don't have stuff on the wrong layer. One time I was at the academy and I was like, blah, 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 blah. Oh, sorry, drawing on the wrong layer. And I didn't even notice that my boss was standing over in the corner doing an evaluation. And he's like, yep, you're drawing on the wrong layer. Don't draw on the wrong layer. Okay. All right, so let's switch to blue. And let's draw our first keyframe. We're going to be on layer number 2. Let's just call this the P, capital P for pendulum. Just leave it that way. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually see if we can get away with copying and pasting this whole thing. So oops, I don't want to go too far off my original drawing here. So I'm just gonna draw my pendulum. I'm gonna draw the string that it's on. All right. So
are we on a different layer, or are we on the arc layer still?
I'm on the I'm on the pendulum layer. So, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy this puppy. Oops, hold on, wait, hold on. I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna delete it. And I'm gonna paste it again. And before I do anything, I'm gonna look and I'm gonna see if there is a pivot point, and it doesn't look like there's a pivot point. It looks like it's pivoting in the middle. So I'm just gonna grab it, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line up the very end of it, and I'm gonna, let's just get this thing into position here. I'm gonna make sure that this is parallel with it. And that's a pretty good position. All right, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to make this last for 2 frames, add a drawing after, paste it. And now it would be ideal that if we could control a pivot point, we would only need to move it. I don't think I have anything in Rough Animator that allows me to control a pivot point. That's okay. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna rotate it. Oops, hold on. We're gonna move it, and we're gonna rotate it, and we're gonna move it again. So it's, you know, this is better than trying to redraw it over and over again. What you don't want is this pivot point to change very much or at all. So, and I don't know why I picked up an errant little selection thing over there, but I should still have the main pendulum in my clipboard. So let's add a drawing after and paste. And I do have the original pendulum. Once again, if we were able to do a pivot right there, we would not be in any kind of trouble at all. But what we have to do now is just kind of fit this position where the ball is touching the arc tangentially, and then rotate it, and then just kind of tweak it and getting it in there.
Hey Billy, sorry to interrupt. I don't know, maybe it's because you're doing it on your computer, but on the Rough Animator with iPad, you can move the pivot point.
Oh, you can? I don't have a pivot point.
So I think there's other people in the class that are using it on the iPad. So
Okay.
you just.
So if you do, just make sure the pivot point is there, and then it's super easy.
Yeah, you'll see that there's like a open circle in the middle of the selection area, and you can just move that to whatever corner you want.
I don't have one, so I'm doing it the long way.
Okay.
All right, so the other thing that I'm doing is, that I'm going to do here faithfully, is I'm going to pay attention to the frame I'm on. So the frame should match. So so on my arc, it says I'm on ball number 7, and I'm on frame number 7. So that's good. So I'm going to add another drawing afterwards. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to move the ball into position number 9, and I know that I should be about here. I'm going to rotate this up, and I'm going to fit it back in there. And as long as my arc is a true arc.
Billy,
yeah,
I also have the pivot point on mine as well, and I'm just working with PC.
You're on a PC, so yeah, us Mac people don't have a pivot point. So so you know what to do here, right? So the idea would just be to get those positions in there. And I'm on frame number 11, so we're just going to go get it into frame number 11. And what I'm doing also is, and I'm not copying and pasting the very last position. And one of the reasons why I'm not copying and pasting the very last position is because I want to make sure that I have the same exact drawing in the clipboard. If I was always highlighting and lassoing the pendulum from the desktop, I might grab something errantly. So at least I know I have the exact same drawing in there. And again, you can be just a few seconds ahead of me here because I have to do all this repositioning. All right, so the other thing that I'm doing here is I'm making a little fine tuning adjustment. I want to make sure that the distance is increasing here. So I saw that this 13 position, I tweaked it just a little bit right there to make sure that it is gaining momentum. All right, paste. The last thing that you would want to do is do this in 2D with paper. It takes forever to do it that way. One of the first classes I taught at Kenyatta College was this animation class. And one of the students was not only worried about the paper that they had, so that they were under camera, and they drew this pendulum right here, and then they recorded it with the camera on the little lunchbox, whatever they were using, and then they erased it and drew the next one. They're like, "Ah, what are you doing?" You're never going to get it accurate that way. All right, so you all could be and might be, if you're following along with this demo, done with the getting it to all the way to the other side. And you then would just be waiting for me. In some applications, you can copy and paste and change the direction. So I could just like copy these frames right here and paste them here in reverse. You can do that in many different applications, in Maya and Flash and Toon Boom. But here we're just going to do it this way. It's faster than drawing it. Ooh, I hit that one right perfectly. Ooh, I got two of them perfect in a row. All right, so one of the things that I want to remark about this is that doing it this way, it's a little faster, and you can understand that it's going to work for the most part based on the graphics of your arc. And you can see, you know that it's going to work. But the one thing about copying and pasting and repositioning here is that you might have an unintentional wobble. The arc is smooth in your drawing, but just the repositioning of these guys, even if you are able to do the pivot point, unless there's a snap to function, you might get like a little wobble in there that is an unwanted wobble. All right, and as I'm doing it this way, one of the things that I'm watching is just the angle of incidence. So I have this line right here. So when I go to this next drawing here and add a drawing after, this is our last drawing, and paste this, I'm going to just put the string right in the middle. And then when I rotate it, this is parallel to that green line. So I want to back off it. I want to in between. I want to make sure that it's somewhere about right there so that it should match in, and it's not quite where it should be. Be like something about like that, a little bit more. And this is drawing number 41. Okay, good. So now we're just going to save this. I'm just going to call this P for pendulum just for right now. We can always change the export. Let's play this. All right, so it's very natural. Now, it doesn't look like the pendulum is wobbling too much, but it is. See this right here? You can see that the little end of the string isn't quite perfect right there. So your job then would be is to get this so that there's very little wobble or no wobble up here at all. Now, if you are in the PC or the tablet version and there's a snap to function here, then you're good. If it recognizes the pivot point and then the pivot point snaps to the other one, then you're good. If you need to zoom in a little bit to 125, just to make sure, it's kind of a difficult thing to go through these frame by frame and copy and paste this whole thing, you know, and tweak it just a little bit. But it can be done. But right now the motion is working. It's nice and gentle. The idea now would be is to extend this out to 84 frames and have it go back, right? So one thing that you would want to do then is pay attention to a couple things on your arc layer, and I'm going to squeeze this down just a little bit, is that drawing number 1 does not have to be repeated at the very end. So right now we counted, remember we had 10 drawings here, an 11 drawing in the middle, and 10 drawings here. So there's a total of 20, there's actually 21 drawings for a, for 21 drawings on 2s for a total of 42 frames. So when you do this, it's going to make sense to keep your arc all the way out there and make sure that you do come to this position, but you do not need to repeat frame number 1. If you do, then it's going to stick here for a total of 4 frames, and you don't want that. You don't want it to stick here for 4 frames and only be on frame 41 for 2. You don't want that. Right? So that's one thing to pay attention to. Is you got a total of 21 drawings going out, but you probably only need 20 going back. All right, but you do need this position so that you know where to put that very last pendulum. Okay? So that's number 1. This one's a little trickier. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to pick somewhere in the center. I'm gonna pick a position, and I'm on my background layer right here. And I'm gonna just give myself an invisible pivot point on the background layer. My layer number 1 is gonna be the arc. And I'm gonna give another layer, and this is gonna be my P layer. And you could kind of guess what this one's gonna be. All right, so this one on my arc layer, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw my first pendulum. And this one's always a little challenging. So I'm gonna get the string to come to about right here. It's about that 45-degree angle. Again, I think that it would be wonderful if we could rotate the stage in this application. Or just be able to constrain the line. All right, that looks good right there. You know, I don't have a line tool. All right, again, I'm going to draw my pendulum about the same basic size, just a 3/4 of an inch or so. And this one we're not going to be able to copy and paste. Again, this is my arc layer. So I'm going to take this out, just a whole bunch of frames. It's probably going to be the same number of drawings. So we'll go to 42 or 45, 42 or 44, 42. On my arc layer, I'm going to switch colors and I'm going to draw a line that comes right down the center. This is my vertical center. My vertical center. I'm going to switch color again. I'm going to figure out where the arc is here. And you can see that this trajectory is a little different. We are in perspective now. You don't have to draw the grid on this one, but in perspective, this is going to be about right here. So this angle is about 45 degrees. This one's a little less. And so it's not quite 90 degrees. If you can see that, you know, in geometry, you always put that little symbol like that, but this is not 90 degrees. So I'm going to take that out of there. And the ball is going to be smaller. So let's give ourselves just a ball about this big. And if we go back to our other project, we can kind of look at those thirds that we talked about. And so let's just on our arc layer, map in where we think those thirds are. And keeping in mind that we're going to have to do the ease in and ease out correctly in order to get this to work in perspective. For this one, if you try to copy and paste and shrink a little bit, you can try to get it to work, but it might work to your advantage to just do this one by hand. So here's my first third. Here's my second third. And going over here, here's my third third and my fourth third. And I'm going to adjust those a little bit. And I'm just going to look at this and study it for a moment. I think that I'm not getting as much of a pronounced differentiation in size and perspective. So I might take this ball and make it a little bigger. And the reason for that is it'll be easier to tell. It'll be easier to see the change in perspective. It'll be easier to draw the new balls, especially when they're really close to each other. So I'm going to get my eraser here and I'm going to take my eraser down to just a couple of pixels. And I'm going to tweak the blue in here. And it's not aggressive enough, so I'm going to take it to 4. Right, that's good right there. So I'm going to go back to a marking color. And let's study this. I think that this position, oops, I'm still on my eraser. All right, that position should be good. This position, if I put this at this third, I'm worried that this one doesn't look correct. So I'm going to shift this one just a little bit to the advancement, and then this one. So I'm worried that this distance is bigger here than this distance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect it so that it's right here. And then it should be slowing into the momentum here. And if I draw that line, I can tell that this is going to be, this is too aggressive of the far away position. So just by the way we did our little graphics here, that's the second third, and that means that this position is going to be tweaked to about right here. And so this is my new, and again, I'm still on my arc layer. And so that should look a little better. I'm going to erase this little bit over here. And I'm just going to think about this before I start doing anything else. I think that should work fine. On my arc layer, if I wanted to think about the arc dipping way down here and then coming up to this position, it might work. It might give me a sense of exaggeration, but I would be worried about this position. The arc is definitely rounder. But I would be worried about passing through this position. If I wanted to use this kind of an aggressive curve in the arc, I might want to make my ball even bigger. I might want to make it just a little bigger. So there are a couple of variations here, as long as you're looking at this and thinking about, I like the blue to red, but the green to red would work too. I don't think that flattening the arc is a good way to exaggerate. I'm just going to sketch that really lightly. I don't like that. Somewhere between my lime green and my green arc is best. If I'm going to use the lime green arc, I would probably use the blue ball. If I use the green, I would use the green ball over here. And I could draw one in between it. So if I draw a teal arc in between these two, again, I think that the division of those spaces is going to be the same. So these are going to, the divisions will just come straight through either one of those three arcs right there. That should be the same. All right, so let's go back to this and let's see if Rough Animator will do this for us. I'm going to go over to my, stay on my arc layer. I'm going to copy this arc right here. And let's see if it'll paste it into a new project. Oh, good, it's right there. So we have the same basic timing. We have the same basic timing because this arc is very similar to this arc, if not identical, right? So we can just use this as a guide. Let's stay with our red color. And we'll put our 11 position here. This is 1 position. This is 17. This is 21. This is going to be 25. This is going to be 31. And this is going to be 42. Now, a lot of times what I will do in a switchover from doing the pendulum in the front view and switching to the pendulum in the perspective view is like, let you all just do it and see what happens. We've already talked about timing and spacing. I've given you a couple of different options here. Make sure that you're easing out of this position. This is the fastest. So your spacing should be wider here at the bottom down position, and that you're easing into this position over here. And then going backwards, you would be easing out of this position and then easing into this position. Once you get the the backwards timing on this, and this is working good and everything, then you can use the same intuition to make this one work. And it's the same process of drawing the ball. I would not copy and paste and pivot, because it's just not going to work as cleanly as it is in the side view. Just use this one to draw. In this one, if we pick the teal, I think the teal would work. My choice would be teal. So I would just do my timing here. This is drawing 1. I'm going to go back to this one. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions between 1 and 11. So drawing 3, 5, 7, oops. 5, 5, 7, 9, and 11. I need 2 between 11 and 17. Remember to make this one bigger. It's a little bigger, and 17, 15, 15, 17, and 19, 21, 23. This is in perspective now. So I'm going to tweak that one just a little bit. 23, 25. And then I don't like this little mark here, so I'm going to erase it. And I realized that I just drew all of this on the P layer. There I go again, drawing stuff on the wrong layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy just everything that I just drew. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to paste it into the arc layer and go back to my pencil. All right, 25, 25, 27, 29. So I have 2 in here, 27, 29. I'm paying careful attention that it's decreasing in motion. I need 5 here, 33, 35, 37, 39, 41. Actually, this should be 41. Drawing number 41. Okay, so good. We're on the arc layer. Perfect. And you would know what to do. I use this lime green layer. If you wanted to use the teal layer, then you could just bring these positions out and it will just be a little bit more exaggerated. I think the green one would work too. And remember that these get really close together here. We call this in animation, this is called a cluster. The drawings that are between 1 and 11, this is a cluster. The drawings that are between 31 and 41, these are a cluster. And again, if you're an animator and you're charting this, just write the word pendulum on top of your chart. And then your lead key, your assistants should know that these are not equal spacings, that there's acceleration going on. And I wouldn't even draw this, because now remember we talked about last week that if we chart anything going from 1 to a 17 position and I draw this, that means thirds, equal thirds. If I draw this, that means half. And so this is almost true equal thirds, but you almost want to put an asterisk here and just write the word, put a P, because this distance right here is actually it's close to this one, but it is bigger. And so it's decreasing. This is an A measurement, this is a B measurement, this is a C measurement. And in this version, A, B, and C translate to C, B, and A. But in this one, it continues. These are all new measurements. These are all new measurements. So if you're going to do these charts like this, you would asterisk or put a P, and you would just, if I was doing this and I was the animator, I'm not sure if I would draw these charts at all. I would just draw a layout like this, and I would just be very careful about where my positions are so that my lead key or assistant wouldn't get into trouble. I've had experience with the animators just going in and saying, okay, I'm going to draw key number 1, and I'm going to draw key 21, and I'm going to draw key number 41, because they just want to control it. I've also worked at animators that they do these breakdown positions, that they go in and they draw these breakdown positions. There was one project where the lead animator was really worried. It might have been one of those Willy Wonka spots where he did like the main in-betweens roughed too, so that only the assistant only had just a few drawings to do in order to get it to actually work. And there was no way you could get any part of it wrong, just because he did all the breakdown positions. All right, so let me just do this. Does anyone have any questions, comments, complaints, conundrums, criticisms? Anything else that starts with a C or a K sound? Anybody have a cat they want to put in there? Okay. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to show you, and I don't want you doing it this way, okay? Swear, pinky swear. For all of you, those of you who have Flash or Animate, I don't want you doing it this way. But this is a more of an automated way to do it. This is Animate. This is the newer version of Flash. What I've done here, and you can kind of see that, I could change the color of that, but you can kind of see that the string that I made goes off the stage. And one of the reasons why I did it this way is because it's a little bit difficult to do a pendulum where the pivot point is on the paper. It works, it's okay. In this composition, I utilized this right side here to draw the chart. And this one, you know, there's lots of open space in here. But to just study the dynamics and to get the dynamics as close to realistic as you want, if you do have a pendulum that's swinging quite far, sometimes it's ideal, especially when you're studying it, to put the pivot point off the edge of the paper. All right, so again, we're just going to talk about the automated way to do this. Right now, I'm going to bring up a new layer. Does anyone know Flash or Animate? So I'm not going to explain it completely in entirety. I'm just going to kind of walk you through how the production, if some short film or animation within a game or something needed a pendular motion, you would want to automate it. You would not want to draw it. And so let me just show you how to automate this. I'm going to bring up a new layer. And I'm not going to name the layer at this point. I'm going to turn off the other layer that I had. I have 2 other examples in there, but I'm going to redo this for you. In my library, I created a poll, and in Flash, the library shows you what that thing is. And so I'm just going to bring an instance of that poll onto the stage. The instant that I do that, I get a keyframe that lasts for the entire duration of my shot. And the other 2 examples were set at 36 frames instead of 42. So this pendulum is going to work a little faster. We could always adjust it later. This is an instance of the symbol, which is like a stamp. So in order to see what the symbol is, I'm going to double click on this little icon, and we're going to look at this, and we're going to touch it, and we're going to hit the E key, which is the eraser tool. I'm going to hit the Q key, which is transform. And it doesn't show here. Oh, here, it's up here. When I learned that the transform tool was down here, free transform. And so what I've done is I moved the pivot point to the upper right. In Flash, you can nest movies. You can put movies inside each other. And so right now we're just looking at the pole. I'm going to go backwards to our main stage. And you can see that the instance of this pole on the stage has a pivot point that is not in the middle. I can see that the middle of the stage is about right here. So I'm going to put the pivot point up here. And you can't work in Flash without calling anything a keyframe. So in Flash, these little black dots, and in Toon Boom, and there's similar shortcuts and graphic stuff in Maya as well that shows you what you're working with in a keyframe. In Maya, there's color coding for keyframes and breakdowns, and the rest are in-betweens. So what I'm going to do right now, when I was messing around with this earlier, and I remembered that in the Mac version of Flash, some of the keyboard shortcuts don't work. So in Flash, there's a new little thing here, which this little tiny little line here means that that's the end of that timing of that keyframe on the stage itself. For this right parameter, I want to make sure that it's in the middle of the stage just as much as possible. And that's good right there. So this pendulum, it's gonna, I think it's a little too close to this edge, so I'm gonna move it up a little bit and to the right just a little bit. Okay, good. And now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna talk about this, because this is the idea of automation. If my pendulum, I don't have a good prop. All right, if my pendulum is right here, this is actually an old-timey stopwatch, and my pivot point is up above the stage. This is my first key position. It's also my last key position. So not everyone's watching me. You have to watch. This is my first key position. That's the middle position, and this is the last. This is first, middle, and last. So when I automate, I want this to be my first key position and my last key position. There's also going to be a key position in the middle, but because we're automating it on a pivot point, we don't need to really define this one in terms of the arc, but we do in terms of the timing. So watch. Let me go back to Alaska for a moment. And back to screen sharing. All right, so what I just said means that this key position, and the pendulum doesn't have the ball on it yet, and I'm over explaining this to show you how easy it becomes. So this key position is the first frame, and in Flash I can see I'm at 24 FPS, and I'm on frame number 1. It says 1F. I'm going to go to the last position here, and it should be F7, but it doesn't work. So I have to modify, timeline, no, insert. F7 also starts my movie. I wasn't even on Firefox, but it started the movie. Sorry. Okay, so I have to insert, timeline, keyframe, and you see that it's missing right there. The little keyboard shortcut is missing. So what I've done now is I've just said this is the first and the last frame. So if I play this by hitting the enter key, it's not going to do anything. And I have this set at 36 frames. So at frame 18, I'm going to create another keyframe. I'm going to insert timeline keyframe. And now I've got a little ball right there. In the instance of the stage, the keys on the stage, there's still no motion. It goes from one keyframe to the middle keyframe to the other one. There's no motion whatsoever. This is the exact meaning of if frames are the same, there will be no motion. So in this key position here, what I want to do is I want to take this and I'm going to just take a Q right here and rotate this all the way out over to about the same angle that the other one was at. And so now if I hit the play button, it's going to go from 1, it's going to flip, doop, doop, right. So now what I want to do is I want to go to the middle of the timeline here and right click it and just say, create a classic tween. When I do that, I get a little purple line and I can see that the position here is moved. And I'm going to go to this one, anywhere in the middle is fine. Right click and say, create a classic tween. I'm going to go look at this and say, you do not want to create a motion tween. Motion tween is that you're doing like motion graphics where everything is on an equal spacing and you don't want a shape tween or a motion tween. Like you want a classic tween. So now if we hit the play button, we can see that there is motion. You know, it's going to the right and to the left, but there's no easing in or easing out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. Just by touching here, I can see that I've selected keyframe or frame number 9. And in the properties palette, I have activated this little pencil tool here. And it's always bugged the snot out of me that something as important as easing should be just a pencil. It should be a different icon. But I'm going to, with that selected, I'm going to hit this. And now I've got to remember what I'm doing. I'm trying to go faster. I'm in here. My pendulum is supposed to be going faster. And then I'm going to cancel this for a second because I want to make sure that I'm in the right place. So it's going faster. And I have to fix this because what I need is this position right here. And because this is my key position. And I can see that the key position isn't quite straight down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit F5 here for a second in this frame. And in this one, I'm going to hit F5 again. And now I've got a total of 38 frames. So that means that the middle frame is 19 and half of 19 is 8.5. So let's do it one more time. So I can hit the middle one is 20. So now my 10 frame should be the middle frame. And there's something odd about it not being right in the middle. It should be a little slower. The animation should be just a little slower. All right, we're just gonna work with this. Keyframe number 10, again, insert timeline keyframe. And then on the next one should be keyframe number 30. We go from 20 to 30 to 40. Insert timeline keyframe. And now it's the same motion. Nothing is happening yet. Nothing is happening yet. It's just the same motion. Now we need to identify this key position here. And this key position is over on the right. This one is the down position. And this one is the down position. These should not move. And they move a little bit, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click right here. It should be moving faster here. So on my graph, look at it. How much change in position over frames? So it should be moving faster. So and I could there's an automated thing here where you can pick the classic ease, but we're going to do this by hand. So it should be moving slower and then faster. And now I've also done a thing where you can copy and paste this arc here, but I'm not going to do it this time. But you can also screw this up by grabbing in the middle and creating a weird keyframe, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say save and apply. And I'm going to do this one, and it should be the opposite. So this one should be slowing down. So I'm going to hit this little button, and it should be slowing into this position. Now, what I prefer, save and apply, is that I do it wrong. What I had hoped is I did those easings wrong and that it looked strange so that I could show you how to fix it. Well, let's see if I did it right. No, I did it right. All right, so let's do the other two. So this one should be speeding up. So it's going to be the same thing, but it's speeding up. So over the course of frames, it's speeding up. Let's do this one wrong so it looks terrible. We'll go back and fix it. Right? So let's just say we do this wrong. Save and apply, and that was an upper arc, and this one is going to be a lower arc. So we screwed these two up intentionally so that I can show you how to fix it, and you know how to fix it. But let's see how horrible it looks. See it? It's like you don't want to slow into that position right there. That looks just wrong. You pretend you're from Long Island. That's wrong. It's wrong. So you go here, you click on the ease button again, that little stupid pencil, and you reverse it. As long as the arc is close to the way it looked for the pendulum on the other one, it should be fine. So this one's wrong too. It always helps to be able to think about things and fix it. And so it's a nice gentle arc. Save and apply. Test our movie. Okay, good. So now one thing that I'm looking at here is that we didn't leave a lot of room there for the ball that would be attached to the bottom of the pendulum. And there's a really great way to fix this. This is where Flash or Toon Boom or any of your computer applications really help your workflow. So what I have on the stage are just positions of this a symbol, which is a pole. I'm going to change the name of this by double clicking on it and just call it capital P for pendulum. I'm also going to double click on it and I'm going to look at this and I'm going to put the ball down here. So on the same key position, because that's the weird thing in Flash is that you have a brand new timeline for anything that is inside a movie. And I'm going to just take a ball and I'm going to put it, it just happens to be blue. I'm going to hit Shift to constrain proportions. I'm going to hit V to grab it. And I'm going to Z because Flash, it wants you to grab the whole thing. Then I'm going to move the whole thing to the pivot point, and I'm going to hit Save. And I'm going to go backwards to the stage. No, it wants me to identify the flaw. So this is pendulum. And it's going to go to the desktop. I'm going to save. I'm going to go backwards to my stage, and automatically I've got a ball. And the ball is already there. So if I test my movie, oh no, the whole thing needs to be raised. And so I can, copy and paste and move it, or I can say copy this whole thing. So I'm going to right click and say copy these frames. Okay? Everyone okay? And I'm going to hide this. And I'm going to go over to my library and I'm going to say add a new symbol. This tiny little button in the bottom. I can hit this, and then this is going to be pendulum, and this is going to be MOV. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call it pendulum, just M for movie. Whenever you are working like this, you're working graphically. You are not working with a movie clip or a button. You are working graphically, so just it should stay as a graphic clip. If you wanted to work with movie clips because you're doing something for a game, the game coders can more easily code for movie clips. But for us, we're just going to keep it as a graphic, and we're going to say, okay, we got a brand new stage. The strange thing about looking at a symbol is that there are no bounding box to the stage. So you just have to get used to that. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to right click and say paste frames. And I get the whole movie in here. If I hit play, I get the same movie, right? Now I'm going to go back to my main project, and you can see that I've got P over here. So this P, and this always bugs me, is that this P is actually a movie. This P is a symbol, but you don't see the movie until you click on it. There should be like a little play button. So if I double click and I go off of it, I'm gonna go backwards. So it's not showing me the little play button up here. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new layer and I'm gonna bring the P movie onto the stage. So this is a movie all by itself. It's a self-contained movie. I can put it wherever I want. If I hit play, hold on, I put it in the wrong place, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna put it generally in the same place. I'm gonna hit play. And I did something wrong. What did I do? Oh, for some reason it didn't copy all those frames. Let me delete this one. I'm gonna go back to this layer. Copy frames. They're all selected. Copy frames. I'm pausing right now because I'm worried that I'm thinking Toon Boom and not Flash. All right, so I'm gonna copy frames. I'm gonna go back to my P symbol. I'm gonna delete this one. I'm gonna paste frames. We're gonna make a new symbol. P2. Huh, weird. It's not letting me do this like it used to. Oh, there we go. All right, so I believe, hold on one second. Yeah, something's not right. I did something wrong. It's showing me the pivot points, but it's got this strange little ball up there. All right, so anyway, if I would have, it looks like I might have deleted something. Which is why I can't see it. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did wrong. All right, I'm gonna stop doing this for just a second. Anyway, that was just, you saw how easy it was to get the pendulum to ease in, ease out just by hitting keyframes, pivot points, copy, paste. It's, I want you doing it like we just did it in Rough Animator, because you are forcing yourself to think about the positions of both the top of the string and the position of the ball itself. Straight line tool is an options panel, Moses is saying. So for Rough Animator,
It's in there for Windows. I'm not sure if it's in there for Mac because I noticed like the layout of everything is different for Windows.
it is. And it looks like you Windows people have a better option. I do not have a line tool.
It might be part of the new update. And if you haven't updated it, maybe it's not there. I just noticed it this week.
Well, there's no option button in, here, let me show it to you. All right, so in my tool panel, I noticed that for some of you who had a PC or a tablet version, there was like a little button over here that had other options. And I don't have that. I only started using this, I don't know, maybe a year ago. But if you do have the line tool, then use the line tool. You don't have to draw it. It keeps the aesthetics better. But yeah, in this position here, I think that what I want you doing is making sure that your placement and your spacing of your pendulum is correct so that it looks very realistic. I want you doing two of them. I want the pendulum in the front view and the pendulum in perspective. And again, in my mind, I think that the teal arc would be probably the ideal position. This little really happy face down here is just a little too extreme. There is an advantage to being extreme, and that is that the differentiation in size is a little easier to draw. If you're using the teal arc, you have to be more precise about it. And again, I don't want you using this one. It was just an example of making the timing would still be the same. All right, once again, I just did the same thing that I did last night and I went too fast, but that's okay. All right, what I'm gonna do then is go back to my notes and remind everyone that right now we're doing pendulums. And then I have a couple of options looking forward to next week. And I still might do this. I like this idea of doing two short, quick projects each week. It keeps you working, it keeps you studying instead of just thinking about like a final project where you just be doing one main movie, one main animated thing. It's good to just keep trying different things. But in my thing, I have a leaf. It's a very typical thing where you'd have a leaf falling. And it's kind of like a pendulum, the repeating itself, but falling downwards. And there's a couple other options. If you watch Wolfwalkers, you'll see that leaves are falling all over the place and they fall just kind of on a very smooth and curved arc. And they just kind of have very static timing. They don't speed up or slow down, but the leaves sometimes turn over each other. And sometimes they just kind of arc one way or the other. And then on my notes, I have a more interesting project where you might have seen it if you were hanging around the animation studio last year, where I show everyone how to do cycling animation with a little car that's just kind of rumbling around and the road is moving underneath him. And it's completely done with cycles. And we cycle the road drawings. There's only like 12 road drawings and there's only like 4 car drawings and there's only 2 wheel drawings. And then there's 4 telephone pole drawings. And you can get a car to look like it's driving on a desert road infinitely with just a 12 frame or 18 frame cycle. And then you copy and paste that cycle a couple of different times. And then all of a sudden a great big cactus goes through the screen for 3 frames, and you develop the idea of how you are working with cycles. One of the advantages for this is games. Obviously, there's lots of cycling in games. When I rewrote the principles of animation sheet that I introduced you to in week 1, I made a mention to it, but let me just bring that up again. So that lives right here. I have it in cycling. It's a movement dynamic, and it would never appear in anything Disney would ever do. The idea of cycling, because they would just draw it new and over again so that the drawings were spontaneous and fresh, and that if you wanted to do anything different, you had those drawings and you weren't just relying on a 12 frame cycle that goes on for the entire shot. But it becomes extremely important in game animation. And many of you are going to get your first test of animation in a game studio. Yes, advertising studios do hire animators, and feature film studios have animators, but and my first step into animation was in a commercial studio, and we did all kinds of things. But there are very few commercial studios here in the Bay Area anymore. They're up in Seattle. There's a bunch in Portland, therefore, and of course, there's a bunch of commercial production studios in Los Angeles. There's not a lot of them right here. Still, though, it's good to understand how the cycling works outside the realm of a perpetual bouncing ball or a pendulum that just won't stop. You know, the decay on the pendulum can be, if you're doing it in Maya, you can just code it. You can just say start, middle, stop, and you can script it to put a decay on it, and the pendulum will come to a stop. You know, you don't need an animator. The people writing code can do that. It's just that easy. But for us, look forward to next week, just doing the falling leaf and the little cycling car. And then after that, just reminding you, we're going to do a flag, and then we're going to go into our 2D special effects with fire, water, pixie dust. I might start with pixie dust because pixie dust is always amazing once you do it. We'll take the rough animator to new heights, because the idea of working with a white background and doing pencil tests is very traditional. But when you're working with like pixie dust, I shouldn't do that. Let me take that back. I'm erasing my pixie dust quotations. You are basically doing your final drawings as you're animating it. And that's a completely different mindset. It's like, what? In animation, you normally set out for writing a script and having the script gone over, and then you do a table read, and Timmy's coming back in, and you do a table read, and then the script gets finalized at some point or another, and then it goes into pre-production, and in pre-production, the script gets done with thumbnails, and then the thumbnails get taken to a board, an intermediate board size, and then the animatic is made. And then from the animatic, the team can look at it and go, oh, wow, this is way too fast. Or we need a shot here. We thought this shot was working, it's not working. And then and there's always like a feedback loop where you maybe even redesign the characters because you want the lead to be a female character instead of a guy. Why is it always a guy? You know, that's the most amazing thing about wolf walkers. It's like, it's a big female presence right there. And the really cool thing about wolf walkers, and I'm just gonna show you this. I'm going back over here, is that, and I've met Tom Moore a couple of times, and I always told him that I thought it was amazing that his name has 3 M's in a row. He spells his first name Tomm. See, and he's like, oh yeah, I've always liked that. But then he had co-director with Ross Stewart, and he has 3 S's in a row. There you go. There's a little tidbit for you. Tom Moore and Ross Stewart. They're old friends, and co-directing is always a very tricky thing. The idea of directing a movie is you're the artist, you're the crafts person, you are the auteur, it is your vision. And to have 2 people doing this, it's always a very special thing. if you can have two people. Joel and Ethan Cohen do this. Now I can't think of it, but there's a team that came out of Cal Arts, John Musker and Ron Clement. They came out of that class of animators at Cal Arts with Tim Burton and Joe Ranft and John Lasseter, Henry Selick. They were all in that same kind of collaboration together. And John Musker and Ron Clements have like co-directed The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. They've done a whole bunch of things as co-directors, a very unique team. And so we'll see what Tom Moore and Ross Stewart do next. I had a question down here. I was hiding off the screen. Oh, Hannah, you were saying something about the
Yeah, on my
the line
computer,
tool.
for some reason, it was like the icon was off screen, so I had to float the panel to get it to show up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found it.
You know, once again, I think that you PC people have an advantage of me. And you know what? This probably this is kind of indicative of the author wrote this for a PC and then translated it to Mac. Where a lot of times it's the other way around. Most of the Adobe apps were written for a Mac and then recoded for a PC. But because I don't have a tool, it reeks of that guy writing it for a PC first. But that's okay. And if you just, in this condition, once again, just use your line tool. Is anyone using a Mac? No one's using, oh, a couple of people. So you're gonna have to draw it. Sorry. You just have to draw your string. Okay, and once again, the digital folders for those are not up in the class. I will put those up as soon as we finish our class tonight. And is everyone excited about the special effects for this class? Fire, water, smoke, pixie dust. When I was young, I always heard forte. It's my forte. But apparently the Italian for F-O-R-T-E is fort. Is anyone a musician? And know that? You don't say
That's
forte.
how I've always heard it, is forte.
I know, but I've always heard that in music it's fort. Traditionally,
No, it's forte.
it is
That's
forte.
yeah, that's the only way we say it.
All right, so I sit corrected. Forte. It's something that I'm really, really good at. I did all of it on James and the Giant Peach. You know, and then the cool thing is that in 2 weeks I get to run an animation class. And let me just